Oh, man. Wow. Thanks, Dr. Cassie. I picture myself just like each one of you guys. It's like I was here yesterday. And I didn't get these fancy, cottages in the Tennessee mountains here. But I want to, when I come into rooms like this, I'm always just reminded, what you're about ready to do, you think you know, but it's 1,000 times better than what you would think. If you can stay grounded, connected, fired up in the right rooms with the right people, which obviously you guys are doing. As just to remind you, like if you get on an island, it will destroy you. I have a lot of colleagues and friends and peers, and they just ho-hum, and what can I do now? And man, is there something else? And I want to do my investments, and all that's cool. But my goodness, it is just something to be able to do what you do. So you're in a great room. You are clearly different than most of your classmates. And so it's cool to be different. It's good to be different. So I drove by, Dave Ramsey's, Ramsey Solutions, if you see that big compound. And I don't love everything Dave Ramsey said, but I love what he says when he says, be like nobody now so you can be like nobody later. Live like nobody now. And that's always been a thing where I tell patients, live like nobody now. I get it. Nobody eats like this. I get it. They go get their test. I get it that they got their MD and they think that the road to health is drugs and doctors and surgeries. I get it. But how about live like nobody now so you can live like nobody later? And I just think that here's the thing. So I come from a family, you guys probably heard a little bit of my story. I won't get fully into it, but I come from a family of, MDs, and I grew up probably not unlike a lot of you, except for Herb here in the front, where it's like it was doctor drugs, it was, symptoms, and then you treated it, and that was just a thing. And it's just important for me to remind you that you're going to be challenged by people you would have never thought you'd be challenged by. And there's going to be time, and this isn't like a doom and gloom, but there's a time, there's going to be a fork in the road where your family member, a friend, a mom, a dad, a sister, a brother, a whatever is going to say, I just think you may be a little bit extreme here. And you're going to have to answer that question. Are you extreme? And who are you around? Are you going to go fall down to that easy path and just all of a sudden, yeah, you know what, maybe I'm a little extreme. These ML people, they are kind of a little bit, right? And I don't even mean that. I think that's an honest-to-God answer, right? So when my dad said, you're going to spend an extra, you're going to be over $500,000 in debt before you make a single dollar in your business, that makes no sense to me. Are you sure? You're not going to take insurance? But it didn't faze me. I'm not asking your opinion here. I'm just telling you what I'm going to do. But he was doing it from a loving place. They're doing it from a loving place. So I just want to make sure you guys know, toughness comes from really digging in roots and say, do I not only just believe it, am I willing to really sacrifice for it? So I know this isn't what you kind of signed up for here this morning. And I want to get into some stuff that, just questions that you may have regarding, I know, Cassie, we want to talk about story. If you look at this, so this hit me about 7 years ago, that I evaluated, because I've been coaching, mentoring, chiropractors, speaking all over the world on this, some of the things that we're going to talk about here this morning. But what hit me was every great chiropractor that I know that has built a big practice has one thing that they do over and over and over again. What do you think that one thing is? Somebody, did you hit it? Yeah. Oh, so great. What do you think?
With your heart?
Yep, so they got a heart, right? And they definitely are leading with their heart. That would be, but what's something practical that they all do?
Get out of their comfort zone continuously.
Yes, right? But not what I'm...
Communication skills.
Communication.
Someone with where they're at.
Yes, but what part of communication in their doctor's report do you hear that, and particularly not just a bunch of stories, but what? And a bunch of testimonies, but what else? What is it? Their story. See, a lot of you in this room, you think, I don't have a story because I wasn't like Dr. So-and-so. Man, for me, I'm kind of dating myself. So I don't have a story because I'm not like Dr. Zano was going to die and didn't die. I didn't have a story. I have Dr. Ben and his dad dying on the front porch. I don't have a Dr. Ben Raw story where I did this, that. And I'll even tell you my story. Like I was 16 years old, and I'll get to it in a minute. But here's what I will tell you. You have a story. The lie is that you think you don't have a story because your story is not as big as somebody else's story. But it's better than anybody's story because why? So people can challenge your research. They can challenge your science, which I'm going to show you how it's still irrefutable, and they challenge it. Welcome that. But they'll never challenge your story if you know how to tell it. And so I'm glad, Dr. Cassidy, you asked me to talk on this because I don't typically in a room like this because you guys you're young, you're getting ready. If you can nail this, you will change so many lives. I'm going to tell you, here's my challenge to you. Go look at the offices that are doing big things and then just watch their doctor's report. Go to their doctor's report. And I guarantee you won't, yes, you'll hear other stories. You'll hear the chiropractic story. You'll hear the brain-body story. You'll hear testimonial stories. Those are all critical. But what a lot of people miss is like, oh, they all have their story. And I've taught this to so many doctors at this point. I think I have one. I'll leave it with you guys. I should have brought more, sorry. But I wrote a book called, I have a bunch, I think I have one in here. Maybe, oh yeah, it's in here. I know I always carry one. Come on. Man, I've got a lot of books that I'll find it. I knew I had one in here. So I wrote this book called The Trust Formula. How to create influence and income for entrepreneurs who hate selling. And it's got my story. Like, I'm just going to show you because the idea, like for me to be on stage, like I took an extra English class in undergrad so that I could avoid taking a speech class because I was deathly scared to talk in front of people. And now it's like the only thing I want to do. I was going to show you a picture of it. So I wrote this book because I had the revelation. Wow, all the big dogs tell a story. They tell their story. Then I studied Tony Robbins. Why do we know him? He tells a story. Ed Milet. What do we know about him? Why do we like him? He tells a story. You name Brendan Burchard. His entire business model is wrapped around the fact that so I challenge you to find somebody that you follow that has done some decent things that don't tell their story. You won't find them. They're not around because story does something unique. And this is what I'm working on another book right now. It'll release in the fall. And I'll give you a hint. It's about selling and it's about Jesus. And so if you look at this, think about this. 48.7% of the words that came out of Jesus' mouth were in the form of either a story or a question. If you're going to sell, the sinless Savior who created the brain and then came down as a man and spoke to people who had the brain that he created would know how to actually best communicate to that brain, don't you think? So if you just study what he did, not just what he said, obviously that'd be important. So when you study that, 35% of the gospel is parables, short stories. But the key is you got to get good at telling stories. And this is a very practical thing. And if I would have been in this talk however many years ago, I would have been like, man, I'm just not. And I'll say this today, like, I'm not a great storyteller. But I've learned some of the principles that apply to stories. So what I want to do here is I want to just take you through on here real briefly. I'll take you through what I, in this book, created, which is called the Impact Story Formula. So I studied, some of you guys, if you study movies or stories or book writing, there's a guy, how many of you guys know what's called the hero's journey? So a guy named Joseph Campbell back in the 60s, 70s, created this. If you were watching a movie, it's the same storyline. If you watch Tommy Boy, or you watch Taken, I'm dating myself, or you watch guess what's coming out in 2 weeks from now? Happy Gilmore 2. Let's go. July 25th. Mark your calendars. It's 2 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks from now. I cannot wait. So it's going to be the same storyline. You guys know in the first 12 minutes, what happens? Something sets the stage. The problem occurs. The bomb goes off. The girl gets taken. And in the first 12 to 15 minutes, that establishes the journey that you go on as the viewer. Like, I love movies. So one of the things that happens is there's something that's called an inner story and an outer story. The outer story is what you see is happening. But the outer story is, why do we all love it, is because there's also an inner story. The inner story, I'll give an example of Taken with Liam Neeson. So his daughter gets taken, but the inner story is what? Anybody know this? And this, I'll wrap this up and how this applies to us and how you can use it. But anybody studied this enough to kind of think about this concept?
Well, he was a retired militant
Yeah.
guy, so he was kind of looking for redemption.
Yeah.
He was also looking to prove himself as a father.
Right. Failed marriage.
Right.
Questioning whether he was a great dad. Right. Didn't have the best exit as his CIA exit that he has. So now there's this inner turmoil. The most important mission that he'll ever have in his life, his daughter is taken. Can I do it? Am I going to be able to stand up to this one? And so this inner dialogue that we all go through and live through right now, we're all on that journey. Can I do it? You guys are thinking to yourself, I see these other doctors. Can I do it? Am I going to be able to do what they... And so that every movie, same thing with Tommy Boy, comes back. He's got to, can I do it? Him and David Spade, they go on this journey of trying to sell. It's the same story. So what happens is Joseph Campbell, he's got it's called The Hero's Journey. It's 17 points. I'm like, that is way complicated. I am not that smart. I barely passed organic chemistry. You guys, organic chemistry still haunts me to this day. I still have nightmares about it. If you could pass organic chemistry, believe me, you can pass any class. You will pass any boards. You will pass anything. It was the hardest class. And so I wanted it simplified. So I took that hero's journey and I put it into 4 steps. And I'm going to teach you the formula. The first one is there's a test. So, and I'm going to go through all 3 of these, and then we'll break them down. The second step, actually, I'm getting ahead of myself already because I added this. I didn't initially had this when I first created this, but then I stepped back before there was a test. There was something, especially as it relates to all of us, that's so important when you connect with your patients, and that is your upbringing. The third part is a search. And then the fourth part is a triumph.
So,
okay.
a reason why there was a gap between them.
Yeah, because there's... this is the most important aspect of the storytelling, and I'll go through this. Okay, so let's break it down. So upbringing. I'm going to tell this through my story, and you guys can, and maybe even throughout the weekend, you guys get. I want this to kind of land and just have you. If you just get your brain cells start wrapping around this, you're going to have just epiphanies. You may not figure it all out in a day or a week or a month, but they're going to add pieces to your story that you're like, you know what, that part is important. When I told that, they responded this way. So, upbringing. My upbringing, okay, so let me take one step back. People buy not because they understand everything. So we're going to want to teach them everything from, here's how the brain was wired, this is the spine, this is correction. All of that's important as differentiation, and you learn how to do that in your doctor's report. But it's important to remember, and this is a tough one early on because I would have disagreed with it. Because I'm like, just give me the data. I'll just kill them with more information. They don't buy because they understand everything. They buy because they feel understood. That's why they buy. They buy because they feel understood. So Chris Voss wrote a book called Never Split the Difference. And he, in his book, and he talks about this, that he was a hostage negotiator of the FBI for many years, and he said, this will blow your mind. The reason why you have a 200% increase of that, criminal, that perpetrator, that person holding up all these hostages, 200% increase in them releasing the hostages if one thing happens. What do you think that one thing? If the negotiator knows why they did it. Think about that. It wasn't threats. It wasn't incentives. It wasn't, hey, I can get you out of here, okay, and we'll send the helicopter down. You can go right. It was they simply, think about the human psychology behind that. Like, you're going to jail. You're in trouble. But if people just want to feel understood. And if you can not walk in a room, you have magic in your abilities. If you could walk in a room, shake somebody's hand, say, you know what, like, I've been in your shoes before. And the reason why I'm so passionate about the work that we do is because I understand. And it just fires me up that people just like you are, right? Like, you're this and this and this. And it just sounds like a lot of my journey. You've been here. And I'm going to tell you, this is, I'm so glad you're here, right? So it's this idea. That's why I added this upbringing, because of what it does psychologically. So my upbringing, I'll pull my whole story together in a second. Second thing is a test. Something challenged you. There was a reason for pain, heartache, something, right? So and that's an easy one. It's a pretty straightforward, like, there's not, like, test. Then to solve the problem that the test, created, you go on a search. And on the search, there's three aspects of the search that are important. The first one is you had emotion. It's part of the brain called the limbic area. Quarterback of that is amygdala. The amygdala detects tone of voice. The amygdala is driven by emotions, the quarterback, and the emotions, as you guys know and probably heard this before, emotions drive decision making. All decisions are created by emotion. So your story has to involve this emotion. The next one, and this is where so many people leave this out. I'm telling you, if you hear nothing I'm talking about, this is the biggie. Doubt or skepticism. And I know this seems like a lot, so if I've lost you, I'm going to bring us back and really put a bow on here. Doubt and skepticism. If there's no humility, that if you don't have the ability to, like, I understand, I feel you, I've been there before, you're at the fork in the road, it's the uncertainty that creates the connection. It's so crazy is how, God left nothing out. You will be strong in your weakness. Like, your weakness, your strength comes from your weakness. So this right here as a part of the story is so important, because this is where this is the bond that you're going to connect. And then here there's an epiphany. We have to have solved the problem, or at least had an epiphany that allowed to get to the triumph. And the triumph is where we win. And here is where we want to help them either achieve or avoid the problem that others had. So this is where you can build a family practice which not based on somebody having to have the hearts, the lungs, the cancers, the infertility, the digestive problems. No, we're helping you avoid that. So my triumph is either going to help you see somebody that you know or yourself know that you can overcome it and have hope, or how your family is going to be avoiding all that stuff. So now let me put my story. Does this make sense? Any questions on this? Give me a time frame. I want to make sure I get to I got one up here. It's 9:05. Okay, cool. Plenty of time. Okay, so let me put mine in here. And before I do that, I'm going to just teach an upbringing for a minute. If you, and I did this video one time on the red bus. The red bus in London or Paris? It's in Paris. I think I said London, but I was wrong. But there's red buses in Paris. If you got on a red bus in Paris and you're going back to your seat and you see somebody who has a logo of your high school on it. And you're like, that's my high school. And you're from Pella, Iowa, let's say. It's a Pella, Iowa. What was your mascot?
The Dutch.
The what?
The Dutch.
The Dutch.
Yeah.
What was the logo?
It was just a big P.
Great. So it'd be a little bit hard to, but you would know the name, you would know the colors and the. So you're seeing this logo and you're like, there's no way that guy, and you can't fight it. So you go back to your seat like, I can't fight this. I've got to go ask him. I go ask him. So finally you go up and you're like, where did you get that sweatshirt from? And he's like, well, this is my high school. I'm from, small town in Iowa, da-da-da. And all of a sudden, you're like, there's no way. And here's why my point is, do you think, and then next thing you know, you're like, wow, when did you graduate? And he's like, this day, it was like 4 years before you. And you're like, wow, did you know, Mr. Smith? And did you have him for industrial tech? And did you have them for, and you're like, next thing you know, it's like, wow, and your family's this. And do you recognize that person is probably, besides whoever you came with on that trip, that person is the most trustworthy person in the entire country at that point to you, because they know where you came from, because you have a spirit of like, wow, there's nothing like the heart of Pella, Iowa. Nobody understands us like the world does. And if I saw them out in a different country, it wouldn't matter, because what the bond that the upbringing brings. So the reason why I bring that up is because your upbringing is important. I make it very clear. My upbringing, I was fully vaccinated. I didn't eat granola and hug trees. In fact, it was the exact opposite. My upbringing was, I didn't have one set of tubes in my ears. I had two sets of tubes in my ears. One of them, in each ear, they failed and they fell out, and then I had to put them back in. And Dr. Mystery was this doctor that, so that happened. My tonsils taken out at 9. My siblings had Crohn's disease. It was a pill for every ill. And I didn't have parents that didn't love me. They loved me. It's just that was the model that they were taught. And so immediately I gain the confidence that I'm not just this zealot out here that's always known this stuff, that I've just, it was adjusted out of the womb, and I've never, put a chemical in my body. And all of a sudden there's this element of, wow. What do you now know that you didn't know then? See, now you're like me. Herb, you're going to have a little bit of a challenge with this, but we've talked through this in a sense of like, you were raised in this. So there's a way, clearly, to do this, but you'll have the hardest time, but it's not hard if you know how to do it. Because I've worked with many chiropractors like, well, I was kind of raised in this. And a lot of them, I don't know if this is your journey, but I've got this guy, Dr. Evan, out of New York, and he came back and worked in his dad's practice. And he's like, man, I was this and I was that. But he didn't realize the value of an adjustment until he got to undergrad, when he was dorming with this guy who had a whole box of medication. He goes, this guy had a box of medication to go to bed, to get up, for allergies. He goes, I didn't know that existed. I had no idea that existed. And I didn't think that my adjustments were the thing that avoided that, but it allowed me, because I was going in engineering. I didn't want to be like my dad. I didn't want my dad's business. I wanted to have my own path. And so we ended up just using it, and now he uses his stories. Like it's a powerful story. Because I'm like, man, and then I looked this right in the eye, and I saw a world that was suffering that I avoided. And so what right do I have to not tell this if I knew this, but I just didn't know what I knew? See, it's so powerful, right? You take your story. I don't care what your story is. You have a story. And that story is then hit with the test. For him, his test was, I then went to the dorm room, and I saw the world wasn't like the way I was raised. And then I had a choice. I was either going to say, you know what, I'll just go be my engineer over here and raise my family, or I'm going to step up and I'm going to, a call to action. It's that call to adventure that says, you know what, we're going to do something about this. So it doesn't have to be, I got adjusted and my, arm grew back. It could simply be, I had a test, I was challenged, and we all were. You're sitting in this room, you are a different breed of humans being a part of this group. You know you are. So now we have a search, so you have the test, then the search, and in this search is this emotion, this doubt, this skepticism, this epiphany, and then the triumph. So for me, didn't get, wasn't raised naturally at all, but it wasn't by the fault of anybody. It was by The mothers, fathers, teachers, preachers, societal norms. Like the answer to your health problems comes from pills and potions and lotions. And really, if you date back, if you really go to the story, that's the story of Rockefeller in 1908, the reflection report, you see this whole thing. And the reason why I have to kind of go there a little bit for me and my own spirit, because my brothers, two oldest brothers are medical doctors. My mom's a nurse, was a nurse for 37 years. My sister, underneath them, was an occupational therapist. So here I come, the black sheep, and they're always like, well, how did Christmas go in your family? When you go back, I'm like, well, we just, there's also when you have a little bit of humor, if you're willing to have some humor, if you ever listen to a sermon, the pastor that just can have a little humor, you're immediately bonded. Like, wow, like he's a real human, he humanizes it. So notice, here's a little bonus, right? This is a gem, which is like, if you can see, and I'm not like that witty, so I have to like planfully plug, that's where like everybody asks me, how does Christmas? And, what do you guys, how do you, get along? And so for me, I ended up being a chiropractor because here's what happened. So I was 16 years old and I got injured pole vaulting. Track and field event, it puts all, if you guys know, like it puts this yanking on your lower back. I was also a football, baseball player. Baseball was my favorite sport. So 16 years old, I get injured so much to the degree, it wasn't like one injury, it was just this repetitive thing, and all of a sudden I get up and I like this Tommy boy. Because the Tommy boy where he's like, Richard, do I got something here? He's like, yeah, not so much right here, just right here. He's got that big thing. Because I felt like that, because I'm like, I would go to doctor after doctor, and I'm like, it's right here. Like, not here, not here. What am I pointing to? It's right here. My SI joint, like right there. Every time, like, guys, it's right there. I can't run without it sharp shooting. It didn't go down my leg. It was just right there. And I felt so weak. And every doctor. So it was, school, whatever, or the trainer. Then it was a PT. Then it was Dr. Davey, our family doctor. Then it was, he sent me to orthopedic guy, ordered an MRI, nothing, ordered a bone scan, nothing. Then we end up in this 2 hours to the research hospital, and it was Dr. Froggett, and he was like a spine specialist. And I'll never forget the moment, I just wanted to get, like baseball season was right around the corner, I did not want to miss. So my mom, I remember we're at this appointment, and my mom, he pulls my mom out of the room, says, can I talk to you for a minute? And he basically says, there's nothing on the test. We think he's, like, there's got to be something that he's faking it. There's something internally, psychologically. And my mom, we left real quick after that. And my mom, on the way back home, 2 hours driving back home, I'm like, what did he say? She goes, well, he thinks this and that. And thankfully, my mom stood up and was like, you don't know my son. There's no way. Like, I've seen him. And I'm like, Mom, if it is in my head, just can you tell me how to get it out of my head? Because all I want to do is play baseball. So I don't care where it's at and how to get rid of it, but let's just, So lo and behold, that next week, my mom was at our family dentist, Dr. Doyle, and she was telling him about this, and Dr. Doyle said, we should see a chiropractor. Have you ever seen a chiropractor? And we didn't go to chiropractors. So he goes, go to Dr. Thor. He goes to our church, good guy. And so lo and behold, makes an appointment, and I go to Dr. Thor. So I go into this office. He's a Gonstead guy. Takes full spine x-rays. Messy desk. It was just this kind of a weird environment in a way. Like his like out where he adjusted people, but like his back office was like kind of dark. And so he takes an x-ray, and within like 10 minutes, he's just one of those guys, definitely not a day 1, 2, and 3. Takes an x-ray, shows me the pelvic plane line. And he says, there's the problem, because it's like this. He said, right there's your problem. And although I had a little bit of optimism and encouragement, I'm like, there's no way. There's no way. I've been to everybody. I've been to the best hospitals. I've been to the research centers. I've had all the tests, the best technology that it can provide. And no, nothing. They said nothing. And so, lo and behold, he starts adjusting me. And kind of the rest is kind of... Now, let me stop in my... So I love telling the story, by the way. That's one, it's my story. But two, do you see... There's so many different nuances of the part of these stories that I'm telling is because, like, when I talk about Dr. Froggett and him saying, see, I know somebody in a doctor report or somebody in the audience, somebody has been told there's nothing that can be done, you are going to need some sort of psychotic, or something over here, or we're going off label. Immediately, what do I have? I have a bond with them as if I'm seeing a Pello shirt in France. So that's why the importance of the upbringing, but then what part of your journey, as you think through it, relates with other people? So now, for me, now I'm down here, like the search to like solve the problem and how I came about it, and it was like, man, it was God's design that one of my siblings had a dentist appointment right after my appointment. Think about that. And so then, the fact that, but I'm like, what is this little guy on the south side of town with a dirty desk gonna do? Like, he can't do anything. And what am I saying? Like, you're at this chiropractor. You're probably at the last resort. What I'm literally creating the model. If you can check off all the boxes in their head of the objections they would have had, they'll never become objections. This is the power of story. Nothing does it like story. Why did Jesus tell so many stories? He used so many metaphors. Did he not know the research? Did he not want to talk in science? No, he knew something we don't know. Using metaphors, using analogies, using parables, using story, nothing will overcome their lack of understanding, trust, and value for care. This is why I love corrective care and the ML model. Why? Because now you're also differentiating. I know you may have been to another chiropractor. I get it. That's why we do this, this, and this. This is why when I heard about this and had to do this and spinal correction in the spine, nervous system, brain, I knew I had to do that, even though it was going to cost me more time, more money, and more of my energy, right? You guys are here on a week, like your friends are back doing their partying and do it, right? So my point is, this isn't the easy road, but you've chose it. So your story is already still unfolding right now. This is exciting. Yeah. This is so cool because if you get to know how to extrapolate, you're going to crush. So then my journey, though, then here was the thing. So this guy starts adjusting me and how I talk about it, in a report. So this guy, Dr. Thor, starts adjusting me. And he started explaining this not going to be one adjustment, right? What am I doing? I'm overcoming that one, right? Yeah. Oh, it's going to be one adjustment. It's going to take time. Your body takes rest. But he would see me only, these are gems, by the way. He would see me, I would come in and I'd be like, he would see me, it would take him like 30 seconds to, I used to take like 3 minutes, 5 minutes. It would take me like 30 seconds to adjust me, which is pretty true. I'm like, the guy was quick. And he was going in and out of rooms. And it would like, hey, and he would walk in the door, Dr. Sullivan, he would call me every time. And then he'd adjust me. It was very fast. And he goes, it's just going to be repetitive. And so then I'm like, hey, how many of you guys, like, one of the things you're going to know about us is that we're getting you in and out here. I don't have a lot to talk to you about. I love to talk more than the average, but I don't want to waste your time. Well, again, I won't want to waste your time. So you're coming in here, you're going to see a lot of people come in here. And so the one thing that we know about corrective care and healing the body is the body takes repetition. If you were to go to the gym one time a month for 6 hours, would you get some results? Maybe a little bit. Would you be a little sore, a little tired, a little exhausted? What if instead of doing that, though, you took that 6-hour chunk and you spread it into 30-minute increments and you went 3 times a week for a month? What does that tell us about the body? That the body is about repetition. Healing requires time, but not just time, repetition. So you'll notice like we have a very seamless process in here to get the best results in the best way possible in the most efficient way. Right? So boom, I just allow, so every, and you guys aren't there yet, but you'll get there where it's like, how do you go from 3 to 500 to 700 to 800? Because you have to train them to what they expect. Like, how long does it take for me to adjust my wife or my daughters? So, and I know you hear that, but you have to set that up. And then I remember, by the way, this taking me back to the days, I remember your chiro friends. They're like, well, I just don't want to be that office that just rums people through. And I'm like, well, here's the thing. Let me actually think about this. Garrett, how often are you going to spend, how much time? Because I said, when you really think about it, our first 3 visits, dude, I'm spending more time with them in the first 3 visits than most chiropractors spend for the entire lifetime that they're there. I'm spending an hour at report time. We have, whatever, a pretty quick but efficient and team-centered day 2. And our day 1 is seamless and very comprehensive. Like, the idea that you're going to just start adjusting people and not tell them why, you see, so like they lose it every time. And so usually like you own why you do what you do. I'm just so thankful for having the mentorship. And so anyway, just a side note as a student there for that argument. Then also the same Garrett one time had said, like, well, I don't know, why wouldn't you just like stretch your hamstrings, and why do you don't want to put anything like, EMG, EM, whatever it is, stim and ultrasound, why do you want to do that? And I was like, it could, and then all of a sudden, I was probably a trimester 6, and I was on my way back. I drove back to Nebraska from Minnesota, went to Northwestern, and it was like a 6-hour drive. And I remember I was listening to an old CD. I think it was a Patrick Gentempo or Reggie Gold or somebody. And at the moment, it just hit me. I'm like, and I go back that next Monday, get back there. I'm like, Garrett, let me ask you a question. It was the 10 minutes between classes, And I'm like, Garrett, let me ask you a question. If you were a neurosurgeon, would you be the one that did post-op hamstring stretches during that? And he was like, I don't think so. I'm like, why wouldn't you do that? He said, because your time is most focused on actually doing neurosurgery. There's people that stretch hands. I'm like, exactly. See what I'm using? What am I using? I'm using analogy and a metaphor. I didn't even know the value of it. But I'm like, you see, dude, I just know the value of, and by the way, it's like, we train our patients on the outside. Like, what's happening over here is essentially Dr. Dana's doing like neurosurgery from the outside. And I'm going to show you in a minute what I mean by that, because I'm a guy that needs to know the evidence and proof of, are we actually changing neurophysiology? And so it's like, if you guys don't see it that way, I want to help you see it that way. I do. But I know a lot of your classmates go out there like, well, I just want to crack people for back pain, and, well, they came here, they need some hamstrings rubbed out. I'm like, I'm not saying they don't need that. I'm just saying, that ain't what we do. I got bigger things. So anyway, where are we at? I'm back here. Okay, upbringing, test, search. So in this search, when I talk about my adjustments, the necessity of my adjustments over time to correct a problem. And then I will say, like, this is just, again, the piece of the story. He one day he comes in and he gave me the famous 5 words: you should be a chiropractor. And my brothers, my daughters asked me this, Dad, what would you have been if you weren't a chiropractor? I'm like, you know what? I think back in the time I was thinking about actually being a cop maybe. And then my brothers were going to medical school, so I think I probably would have followed somewhere in their footsteps, But it's just so thankful, that divine intervention, I'm so grateful for this back pain. I'm so grateful for this SI joint pain. I'm so grateful that, boom, everything happened. And so, but I'm teaching you guys this, but from a patient standpoint, I'm telling you, I had this problem. I didn't think it was ever going to go away. I thought I was going to have to live with it. And then I ended up playing baseball in college. It was my favorite sport. And if I wouldn't have been able to get over this, there's no way I would have been able to play high-level sports. The thing that was my identity at the time. And I also say that because at this time, with every doctor telling you nothing's wrong and there's nothing we can do, you know how that feels? Like this, my emotion. So I'll never forget Erin Palace. She comes in. She couldn't get pregnant. The story that I told in the doctor's report, she's like, I feel the exact same way. Like, I feel like damaged goods. What's wrong with me? Nothing can be done. I've been to all the doctors. They checked everything. They tested everything. And so that was the thing for me to be able to think my story related to Erin Palace enough because of the emotion of nothing can be done. See, it's so versatile. Your story I don't just see people that have SI joint pain. You see everybody. Your story is so versatile when you know how to use it. But then it's the doubt and the skepticism is this really going to work? When I start to see Dr. Thorne, like, it wanted to make sense of it. I wanted it to work, but I wasn't sure. See, that's that vulnerability. That's the unknown, uncertainty, and when they feel that, that's what they're feeling right now. When they're buying because what? They feel understood. So that's what we get them to feel in that moment of taking part of your story, whatever search you're on, you've got to include your doubt and your skepticism, your own doubt, your own skepticism, and then boom, the epiphany was, man, all of a sudden, I start being able to walk or run halfway around the track, and then full track, and next thing I know I'm sprinting, and next thing I know I'm, never missed a baseball game that summer, and the rest is history. Played sports in college, and end up, not only being a patient and a testimony, but obviously doing this. So that makes sense. And we just kind of went through a lot there, but I feel like you guys were asking me good questions and/or good vibes. What questions do you have on this?
So you said that, talking to Zach, like growing up, not how most people do, because a few of us had chiropractic parents and everything. So what kind of advice do you have for building a story with that outline for those that don't have like the doubt of what chiropractic means or like?
Yeah. So that's a great question.
There's like 4 in here.
Who do I know? Well, I know Herb. Oh wait, who Cummins? Who's Cummins?
And Roberto.
Okay, and you are, and so your dad's Tim, practice in Georgia.
We got Harvey and Roberto.
No way. Roberto? Come on. This is just, wow, what a blessing. What a blessing. You're all, I guess it's all dads, hasn't it? But even it's not even that. Moms, and dads, dads have had such an impact. You please send their blessings from me and my family. I just, Fred and I would talk about when I was in, when we were, man, I tell you what, this guy, he'd be proud of me with my camera because he loves the guy loves cameras. When we're
Fun fact, he records everything and then no one knows where the recording is.
we were in Istanbul. No, it's the one was in Russia, in Moscow, and then the next year we were in Istanbul, and then we were in London, and we it's like we were carrying Fred's cameras in the camera bag, and get every little thing. Okay, Jordan Burroughs, we got to make sure we get. That was so funny. I just love that guy. That's so good. So it's a good question. I've got a 14-year-old daughter. Her name is Hallie, and she is.
My name too.
Oh, that's your name. Hey, how do you spell it?
H-A-L-E.
Let's go. Yes. Wow. So I gotta get you connected with my Hallie. It's same way. H-A-L-E. So, actually, let me ask you this: were you bound and determined? I'm going to be a chiropractor, just like my dad.
Not always, but I did want to do something similar. So I got my RD stuff, and I went to school for dietetics, got my master's, like my mom.
Yeah.
And then right before that, I went to the seminar as kind of an adult, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to do that too.
Oh man. So what? We won't have to. Like, I would love to. Each one of you, and it'd be my honor, to kind of help you guys with each doing that, to figure out your story, because I guarantee you, and you all are going to be like, yeah, you're right. There was a point. Well, so let me just take it from my daughter's standpoint, Hallie. So Hallie's 14. She's been bound and determined, I'm going to be a chiropractor. Like that's, and then I got a daughter, Harper. She's 12, or she actually turns 12 this tomorrow, Sunday. And then I've got a daughter, Honor. She's 8. I don't know about her. She's our little renegade, but. So Harper loves animals, so she's kind of like, man, I would love to be, if you could, like a, horse chiropractor or whatever. We'll see. Hallie's been bound and determined from the get-go. But I will tell you this, that there has to be at some point she's going to experience some sort of either adversity, whether it's in college, it's in undergrad, something that is going to happen, which is going to be your test that you had, because chances are, even if you said, yeah, I'm going to go do it, even that, something has happened in your life that you question yourself, is this for me? Is this really the right path? Maybe you were bound and determined, but in your case, no, I was going to go over here and do this, but then something happened. It was something in your spirit, maybe at a seminar, right? You just have to work through, but also it's like really telling people the truth. This is the vulnerability piece. I didn't know that I didn't want to be in my parents' footsteps, or I didn't want to do this, or I didn't want to do that, but I couldn't help. It could be, you know what, I saw one of my friends in college just, suck down Diet Coke and give herself Botox, and I just looked at that and I thought to myself, there's no way that can't be health. I was raised so differently. I have to go do, and I'm not blaming this gal. She just doesn't know. So it's something. And so I'm putting some food for thought to, again, get those neurons. It's like, what was it? What was the event? What was the moment? And it doesn't have to be, it was this one time, but it could be a series. It could have been a season that something happened. And then you're going to get good at being able to say, I just couldn't fight that anymore. I saw the world a certain way. I was raised a certain way. I had to be a part of this solution. And you're in this room, because that's why I know you had to be a part of the solution, because you're in this room. So is that helpful?
Yeah.
So you have to dig in and just realize, what was it that, like I've worked with Matt Accurso. I don't know if you guys remember Matt. So when he was here, and him and I worked together. And I remember he was another one, because his uncle, Joe, was such a prominent chiro, so he was raised in the model. Like, never vaccinated, ate this way, did these things, and it's like, okay. But you got to him like, well, Matt, did you always want to be? Because, yeah, I did, but then I kind of fell off, then I was in surfing, and then I realized this was the thing. So you'll look for that, you'll find it and you just kind of start realizing, man, yeah, this was it. Because it's got to be your journey, not your parents. It's got to be your journey, not your brother, not your sister, not your aunt, uncle, whoever it is.
How is that relatable? Like, we're talking about relatability as like the key factor here whenever it comes to the patient or the potential patient in front of you. Like, that is a story that is difficult to relate to.
As a patient?
As a patient.
There's only one reason why. It's like, because if you didn't have a story as it relates to, man, I got adjusted and this happened, then what we're doing is you still have your story. What's your story, right? So if your story is just, I was raised to be, and it may be as simple as, I was raised to see a world a certain way, but like, did you ever have any challenge then? I just saw the world this way and I want everybody to be this way. That's cool, but like, it doesn't connect. Like, did you ever have any doubt or skepticism about your journey? The reason why it's relevant, and it's a good question. I see where you're going with this. And again, if you think about it, the reason why it's relevant to anybody is because the reason why you're so passionate and mission-focused and different than any chiropractor, MD, research guy in the world is because you see a world that so desperately needs this message. And in this case, it could be 30 seconds. It's like, yeah, I didn't want to do this either. Like my dad and my mom, chiropractor, it says that you have a vulnerability to you. You had a doubt and a skepticism about whether it was the right path. And I'm not saying that's your story. I'm saying somewhere in there is a doubt and a skepticism about the journey that you're on. And then when they realize, man, I see what he sees. I see a world that's sick and suffering. I see a world that is crazy. And you do have to have that line in the sand. See, people are drawn to those who are willing to like be bold. What's bold? It's like, if you love the drugs, you ain't going to be a good patient here. Go take your drugs. Like, I'm doing a talk on Monday at this group. It's like, anymore, I'm just like, guys, here's what I know. And I know I'm going off here a little bit side, but here's what I know is that I can walk into a room and I know that 52% of the adults are in chronic pain every day. I know that 70% of them can't sleep at night. If you can't sleep at night, you don't have that glymphatic draining, which means your brain actually detoxes. You skyrocket dementia. Why aren't you sleeping at night? Because your body is so sympathetically driven. And that the only thing the MD is going to say is, let's do this test. Here's Lunesta. Here's Ambien. And it's like, that's the world we live in. And if you think that's a normal, good world, but if you see that there's an ability to live healthy and well, and that God gave you everything inside to be healthy and well, welcome aboard. But see, the reason why it comes back to our story is because what made you so passionate to go over here to be able to stand in this gap for people and have deep roots that they're going to follow. That's why that story matters. You know what I mean? Go ahead. Did you?
Touch on like innocence when you were saying vulnerability, like innocence in people's stories can ultimately, I feel like, lead them to chiropractic. Like yours, you're innocently just trying to fix yourself, and you're looking at all the mainstream ways to do that.
Yeah.
And you're like, where am I supposed to go? And the last resort is chiropractic, and you're innocent in the sense that you just didn't even know better.
Yeah.
So a lot of people ultimately, like, Zach, to answer what I think you were saying, is like a lot of people just don't even know better. So like, I feel like there's a way to integrate that in almost everybody's story.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a good point. In innocence of, again, let's go back to that name thing, making them feel understood.
Yeah.
They feel understood. They're going to buy because they're like, you know what? I've never thought of it like that, but that makes sense. So what you're saying is you're saying the body could actually heal without drugs and surgery. That's such a novel, profound idea. Like I got a buddy of mine who's a chiro, runs a certain technique, and him and I go back and forth, and I just disagree with him. And it's like he grew up in a model where, he says, my mom took me to naturopaths growing up. My mom took me to kinesiologists and, homeopaths and chiros. I'm like, I didn't. I said, that's a rare breed. Now, his story has to be a little bit different, but I'm like, that's not the norm. So differentiating, it's not the norm, the way you grew up. So it's kind of like, that's why I think it's like making sure, growing up in that model, like how can I make sure they still feel understood by me? Because there was a point that I maybe doubted it. I'm like, man, everybody, when I was in college, nobody did this. And it's like, yeah, they were wrong and I was right and everybody did this. And so I wanted to just teach them. It's like, man, you're just like ego, prideful, like nobody's going to connect with that. But versus, man, I had to do something about this humility, this humbleness in me, this innocence. Now, for us, minus you guys, like, because we did have this, like, I didn't know. Like, what's the difference? Oh, and there's another part of so we drove we drove the station wagon growing up. I remember leaving the station wagon. My mom didn't tell me this till about 8 years ago. She goes, Dan, do you remember when we left the chiropractor for the first time, what you said to me? And I'm like, no. She goes, you looked at me when we were getting into the car, and she said, and you said, Mom, why didn't you bring me here first? And then my mom said what? What do you think, Mom?
I didn't know.
I didn't know. Do you know why we're on such a mission? Why we do dinners every single month? Do you know why we do doctor report like this? We have patient appreciation days. We are in the community. We do the 5 essentials. Do you know why? It's because my mom didn't know. Do you know how many people in this community don't? You see? So part of the story. I didn't know that part of the story. And now it's like it's just an added fire of like, man, we didn't know. Neither does anybody else. So that's why we're here. There's a question back there?
Well, I just wanted to make a point with the growing up in chiropractic. Like, the whole point here is to be like shifting the paradigm, right? And so if you do it right through the parts of the number 3, you get to like kind of include both your paradigm with their paradigm with the understanding. And so it kind of like, it's like a two-way bridge if you like get it down really well. So it's really interesting.
Yeah. A lot of us don't have to do that, and it is a tough one. It's a tougher one, but you guys all do it great. I mean, it's it's like, because the other part you can use it as leverage too. It's like, man, I grew up in this. There's movies about this that I can't think of offhand, but like people that grew up in a certain model, and you see the world, like you see this is gonna happen to my daughters. Like at some point, not that we shelter them, but it's like you don't see what everybody's doing. You don't see all the drugs that people are popping. You don't see it's a different world out there. And it's like, man, take me back. Like, I don't want to see that world, right? But it's like, no, we got to go have an impact on this world. We got to change it for the better,